You might think that this next video is a little bit late when it comes to taking a look at this piece here, but as you will learn, a toy reviewer is never early nor late with their videos. They always arrive exactly when they mean to. Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and today's video is concerning one of my favorite movie franchises and one of my current favorite toy lines from a certain company, and that would be Lord of the Rings. And today, we're taking a look at our second PVC figure diorama statue from Diamond Select's Lord of the Rings series. And this time around, it's the wizard himself. It is Gandalf the White. And yes, this is Gandalf the White, so we're talking the second two movies in the original trilogy. And man, this is really cool. This is also the second piece that we've seen so far in Diamond's PVC figure diorama series. The first one being Aragorn, and I had a lot of good things to say about that. And likewise, really looking at anything Diamond has done with Lord of the Rings, I've had positive things to say across the board. I think the action figures are some of the best things that they've ever done in terms of articulated toys. And the statues, same thing, they're looking really great and they've got a lot of legs. I think we're going to see a lot more things coming from that line later this year and hopefully well beyond into the future. But today we are concerned with Gandalf himself, so I can't wait to get him out of the box. But first things first, let's talk about this packaging. And it's the same as really any PVC figure diorama that you would get from Diamond Select. It's just a big old honkin' square with really not much design. It's actually the kind of same designs we've seen in all the action figures and everything else. Nothing too wild and crazy. We've got the Lord of the Rings logo emblazoned on the bottom of the box, along with that image of Gandalf and Frodo and Sauron that we've seen in the action figures as well. Now we've got windows on two of the sides, the left and the right side, as well as a very large one in the front. And in case Gandalf needs another escape route to escape the tower, we also have a nice, lovely sunroof on the top. The back of the box looks really nice as well. We've got a great full-bodied photo of the statue itself, looking very nice and majestic here. We also have a short little bio explaining a little bit about who Gandalf is, but really it's more about what the heck is going on in the Lord of the Rings. It's not really a very personalized bio here whatsoever. It's really not really talking about Gandalf that much at all. Nor does it contextualize which films this Gandalf is meant to be, but any Lord of the Rings fan out there worth their lembas bread knows which films this is based on. A nice little thing on the bottom right corner of the packaging is a preview of who else is in this line, and that includes Aragorn, who we've already looked at, but also now included here is a troll. And we've seen this troll back at Toy Fair, but this is the first time he's now been on the packaging for any of these things here. And while they're probably never going to make an articulated one for the action figures like they did with Sauron, this is going to be pretty close in scale. So if you have the figures and you get this statue, you can start making some really killer dioramas. But most importantly, the packaging lets us know who made this piece. And our Gandalf the White was designed by Caesar and sculpted by Anissa Chube. So I'm very excited to see the work of Caesar and Anissa as we open up this box. And yeah, let's go ahead now, dive into our Gandalf and take a closer look at him from all angles. And here is our Gandalf the White out of the packaging, ready for an inspection up close and personal. And initial thoughts is it's really just another impressive Lord of the Rings piece. And have there been any non-impressive Lord of the Rings pieces by Diamond Select? For real, think about it. Let's rotate our Gandalf just so you guys can get a quick glimpse of this guy from all angles, as we promised earlier. But for real, I mean, I can't think of any real bad things we've had during this entire run that Diamond has done with their Lord of the Rings stuff. And this is another really non-exception to the rule. This is just another classic masterpiece that they have done. And man, so now that I'm seeing it turn, I'm getting goosebumps because I'm seeing how this like cloak is flowing. Oh my goodness. This is another 10 out of 10. It's going to be a 10 out of 10 or something close to it. You know, I can see like one or two maybe problem spots, but overall, this thing is just hitting it in all the right places for me. Wow. Oh, man. Jeez, this is, okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to make some words. I'm going to have to actually say things about this video, about this toy, aren't I, right? Yeah, that's the thing I got to do. I'm just like flummoxed already because this thing looks so good. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out how we do all these videos, and that's going to be talking about likeness. And we're going to kick things off here by asking the question of whether or not we think this looks like the man it's supposed to be. Does this look like Sir Ian McKellen? Does this look like Gandalf? And I gotta say, that's a definite yes to me. Now, this being a PVC figure diorama, the features will probably be a little bit softer, and they definitely are a little bit softer than how it might look if it was, let's say, the action figure, or if it was especially a resin piece. You're going to lose some details. It's going to be a little bit smoother, because typically that's what happens, is they tend to kind of smooth the faces out. I guess it's just because of like the process of making them and how they end up looking. But this definitely looks like Sir Ian McKellen. I mean, there's no denying that whatsoever here. Everything about this, it screams Ian McKellen. It screams Gandalf. The eyes, the nose, the lips, you know, he has a very particular look to him, and they've really managed to get all of those different details in this piece. You know, from certain angles, it almost looks like the guy from Miracle on 34th Street who played Santa Claus in the original film. But, you know, that's actually, I think, a positive, too. Why not? But, yeah, I mean, he's got an interesting face. And while we're not going to dissect the anatomy of Ian McKellen's face here, it can be, I think, an interesting face to translate into toy form. And we've seen it plenty of times. Toy Biz has done it. Diamond has done it. Some other companies who have done larger scale figures have done it. Like, I think Star Ace did some versions. I think Hot Toys did some as well, maybe. There's plenty of versions of him out there. You know, there are some that are certainly better than others, some that are worse than others. But for my money, for what we're looking at here, for this scale, for this price point, I don't think you're going to really be able to beat it. You're not going to find much else that looks this good at that price. You know, if anything, I would say the one thing I wish there was more of would actually be a little bit more wrinkles. Because, again, everything looks a little bit smooth out. He almost looks a little bit younger than he would have in the films here. So I kind of wish that his face was a little bit more aged looking here. That's really the biggest thing. And that's why, again, like, I want to give this thing, it's not a perfect 10 because of this likeness, but even then, it's still a strong 8, I want to say, 7 or 8, depending on how deep you think it is here. But I think it's still overall very solid. And I also appreciate what they did with the hair as well. You know, all these characters are going to have, for the most part, pretty long hair, unless we're talking hobbits, I think. But hair looks good. It's nothing that I'm going to like be really raving about like I will in the past with other people with long hair in the statue world. But for what I'm looking at here, I mean, we're doing pretty great already. So, yeah, very solid. Let's go ahead and start talking about the body as well. We'll just start taking a little closer looking down this piece here, too. And, oh, man, there's so many different little things to talk about here. I don't even know where to begin, but just look at how much is going on in this piece here. Well, I think we're going to actually just stick to this upper body for a second here because I want to go into some of the other details here. Like, number one, this piece here that attaches his cloak to his body, like, that has got some real intricate design work in that. I mean, I hope it shows up on camera because that is just nuts to me. Likewise, too, we've got this pattern that's going across his cloak that is just, wow, talk about attention to detail. I mean, every little bit here is in this thing here, and it's flowing on both sides, by the way. Just look at that. And likewise, too, now let's turn him a little bit this way. Hopefully you guys can see it better through his arsenal. But the pattern that's on his body, that's on his outfit, I mean, talk about detail. That's intense. I would not want to be the person having to sculpt that by hand. I mean, even if you're doing it digitally, even if you're making a digital sculpture, that's still a lot of work to get that in there. Wow, really impressive stuff here. And again, just from another angle, you can see how he looks, how it all looks together. Man, that is great looking. We can talk about, too, some of the flow of his fabric as well in his, I guess that would be a tunic, I guess we're calling it. But, yeah, just great energy in that. It feels so lifelike. Like, that's another big thing, too, is the pose here. And it really feels like this Gandalf is on the move, because he absolutely is. This is a Gandalf who has some urgency in him. He is marching off for very important things. And we can feel that. We can see the wind blowing behind him. We can see the energy going in his body. This is a battle-ready Gandalf, too. And again, because there is this windswept cloak that's behind him that's just bringing all this energy this way, the way his hair is going too, the way these weapons are. This is really such an action-packed piece without him even like really raising an arm to slash at somebody or anything like that. You know, this is just, it's very evocative. And I think for Lord of the Rings fans especially, like that's something that's going to really excite them. I do want to talk a little bit too about some of the weapons though, since we did mention it. We'll start with this hand here because we have his staff right there looking at us. And that's another part that is loaded with detail. Very simple staff, nothing really intricate here on the handle or anything like that, but the tip of it is really, really pretty to look at. And we'll just do a rotation of Gandalf as well. I'm not sure what the best way to look at glamdring is. Maybe it's like this actually, but I know the staff kind of gets in the way. Let's see if we can pull this off. I do that maybe. Huh, all right. Yeah, we could fake it. There we go. Yeah, I mean, the detail on the sword, too, is just immaculate. From the handle to the hilt to the actual blade itself. Wow, that's a great-looking sword. And they did a great job with that sword also in the action figures, but here in statue form, this is particularly excellent, too. Now, one thing you might have noticed also, you may or may not, we'll see, but there is a little bit of rubber band here with his hand, and there's a similar rubber band action happening in the other hand over here that you might be able to see. It's very, very tiny. It's so thin. You can snip those off. I don't think they're there for any other reason other than just keeping the two weapons secure in the packaging. So, you know, once you take them out of the box, I think you could probably snap those rubber bands if you want, but they're also, like, barely there. So if you want to leave them in, I don't think it's going to bother anybody. You know, the big thing about them is these weapons aren't really removable. They're really just there to kind of just keep everything nice and in the right position so things don't get jostled and move around. It's really there for your protection as a buyer, but once you get them home, do whatever you want with those rubber bands. Let's talk a little bit too about these boots as well, because it's always funny thinking about Gandalf's boots. Because you think about a wizard, you don't really think about their boots, right? But yeah, they're fine. They're good-looking boots, similar color to the rest of his outfit. Again, just very solid detail all around. Great sculpting on them too. And I think I want to spend some time too, talk more about the flow of the robe, because this robe is just really, it's definitely doing it for me. Man, just, again, now there's not a ton of like detail in the robe other than what we already showed you, which would be like that pattern that kind of starts to recede by the time you get to this point here. But there is still some kind of going down. You can see right there. But by the time it hits the sleeves, there's really not as much. It's really just about the flow. And you really do feel that flow. I mean, you guys can see it. I really want you to really soak it in here, because when you start looking at it a little bit closer, you can really just see how much of that flow and how much of that energy is going into this cloak here, this cape just flapping in the wind. Just so awesome looking here. And it's a big cape. I mean, I want you guys to really look at this thing. We've seen a lot of big capes in other statue reviews, by the way, and there have been, I'm sure, much longer, but the presence of Gandalf here really makes this feel like it's bigger than it actually is. And that's a compliment to, once again, the sculptors who made this piece. They really knew how to kind of capture the energy of Gandalf and this moment that's happening, because, man, this is a real knockout piece, let me tell you guys. Now, let's also talk about the base for a little bit here. The base is not as exciting, of course, because it's a base. Really, all the detail went up in the upper body here, but the base is still simple. It's just a big old clump of dirt, clump of mud, because this is, I think, meant to be the final battle, so whatever, it's not a big deal. We got some pieces of architecture, some stone architecture on the floor here. You've got a big chunk of something over here as well, part of a column, perhaps, that's laying in the ground. There's some part of, I would assume, maybe a sculpture, or again, maybe it might be a vase, or a vase, depends how you want to say it. But nothing too crazy. Very nice, though. Still good paint jobs on this thing. You know, really, it's a fairly neutral color, because Gandalf's outfit is also fairly neutral, so nothing is super eye-popping here. But that's fine, because really you want the attention to go into the rest of the piece. You want the attention to go into Gandalf himself, because, man, how can you not, by looking at this thing, I mean, really, how can you not have the attention just go right to that? And that's the whole thing about it, too. It's a very nicely balanced piece. Lots of great details. I mean, wow. So if you already have Aragorn in your collection, if you don't, you might want to correct that right now. But we're really building a pretty awesome army here, some battle-ready characters. And seeing Gandalf here really just makes you wonder what else they're going to do next. As far as you know, the line, again, so far we know a cave troll is coming, and that's about it so far. We only know about those. I'm sure there's going to be more pieces. It's just a matter of who and what are they going to do with them. Like, and especially what are they going to do with the hobbits, too? Are we going to get, like, one hobbit, two hobbits in the same statue? You know, we're going to get a Sam and a Frodo. Is Merry and Pippin going to have their own set together as well? A lot of possibilities here, but as far as doing these more human-sized characters as opposed to the hobbits who are smaller, we're off to a very solid start. I mean, that Aragorn, if you haven't watched that video and seen that review about it, I definitely recommend that you do. But this Gandalf, again, same thing. I mean, for you fantasy fans out there, these are must-haves. And keeping in mind the price point that we're looking at here, these are essentially, I think, $60 statues. They're somewhere in that range. They're not that far off. They're not super expensive. It's the right price. It really absolutely is the right price for what you're looking at here. And you can't beat this. I mean, for real. These things are just gorgeous to look at, great to display. I can't stop recommending this Gandalf enough. But hey, I want to know what you guys think about this piece too, so go ahead and leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about this Gandalf. And if you're already dead set on getting him, why not consider using our affiliate links in the description of this video below to pick him up. If you click on any of those links and buy this Gandalf or anything else, it helps support this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more action figure reviews, statue reviews, and everything else we do here on the channel.